video. All right, you guys, what's up? It's been a while since I've done a video, but I just wanted to do another one. I'm gonna just continue the Trails series, back off from where we left off. I said I'm gonna do a video on everybody from class 7. I'm gonna get a video out on everybody in class 7, including Sarah, and maybe new class 7, maybe. But today is Jusis' video, and I'm just gonna do these in the order of some of my favorite characters. I should have done Emma next, but I want to do Jusis because I have a better, I think, grasp of his character than Emma's character. So we're doing Jusis Albarea, second son of House Albarea, and yeah, let's get into it. I wanted to really talk today about what it means for Jusis and in the world of Trails, I guess Zamuria, what it means to be a noble. And in Libero, we don't, as far as I'm concerned, we don't really see nobles. And I know in the new games on Coward, there's not really noble factions. There's the rich and wealthy, definitely, but there's those, they're not separated as in commoner and noble. And we see this through the lens, introduced through the lens of Gaius in our world. He's the surrogate kind of for the audience, as asking what's really the difference, what makes nobles so-called better than the commoner. And I believe it's Patrick that says and gives the explanation that a noble is just somebody who basically has rich family ties, of course, like I said, rich, but is able to back up and is able to track their foundries back to the beginning of the kingdoms, and they take pride within their family. So not necessarily anybody can be a noble, because not in that world, not necessarily everybody has pride within from where they come from, but the nobles do, or you're supposed to, right? And through the lens of class 7, we only really have 3 technically nobles, and that's Reen, Laura, and Jusis. Kind of, yeah, no, those are the 3 that are for sure technically nobles. Reen doesn't, he technically counts, but everybody kind of doesn't like him, I guess, in that term. They don't want him kind of included with Laura and Jusis, but Laura and Jusis are definitely people where they look upon and see, and Gaius even mentions the pride there that he sees within them. But he mentions Patrick doesn't really have that. Now with Jusis, I guess an interesting way to approach his character is through his interactions at first that we see with Machias. And Machias is I guess a great way to kind of show not necessarily the average person's intent with nobles, but I think the average, I guess, audience and how they would view it. Most RPGs, when you're getting into it, you hear automatically if there's a commoner faction, noble faction, you already know who the good guys are and you know who the bad guys are 9 times out of 10. But I do like Trails in the sense that they give, it's not so black and white. Not all nobles are good, and of course not all commoners are bad. Now there of course are bad nobles and there are bad commoners, but that's not where you draw the line. Even at the end of 1, Crow ends up teaming up with the nobles to get back at the Chancellor, and we view Crow, of course, as a kind of a bad guy, but we don't see him as the absolute worst of the worst or anything. And in fact, his actions are understandable when he explains them to us. So the nobles aren't necessarily they're not bad people. They're people at the end of the day. And it's kind of hard when you're seeing Jusis kind of, it's hard for him, I guess, because he is automatically every time associated with his last name. He takes pride in it, yes, but he can never really, it seems, fully separate himself from that Albarea. When we first see him introduced, even, and when he first says his last name, he kind of seems that he's tired of it. He's sick of it. He doesn't want to be looked at through, oh, that is Duke Albarea's son, or that's Rufus's little brother, but he is always viewed through that. He's never had the chance to kind of make his own name. And that is something I think that is actually underlooked with his character, not really pressed upon. We of course see throughout the games he starts to make a name for himself through his dealings, as well as him being known through class 7, I guess, is the best way to describe that. He is, I will say, he's probably the calmest member of class 7. We rarely see him act out or really show that hard-hitting emotion. Hell, even I'd say probably Gaius is slightly more emotional than Jusis, and we see that as kind of a way of him coping, I guess, with his world. He doesn't really have to show that much emotion, and we see that through Rufus as well. Rufus doesn't really show heavy emotion. It's not until really Reverie that we get to look inside Rufus's head, and with Jusis, we get a look inside his head in the first game when we get to his hometown. I forget what it's called at the moment. I'm blanking on it, but it's not Heimdallr. I mean, I'm blanking on it. But when we get to the noble faction's hometown, and we first, in class 7 meets, Phantom Thief B for the first time, and Toval for the first time. When they get there, we kind of see Jusis to kind of open up a little bit more, and I really like to think that he was the first class 7 member to open up, at least in our view and our eyes. He was the first one to say, hey, I actually come from a common woman, and my relationship with my dad is strained. And you see the way he talks with his dad is even almost just strictly business. There's not really a father-son relationship there. We see through Rufus that there is a brotherly kinship, and if anything, that's the interactions that kind of push Jusis to be more sociable rather than a complete shut-in, or rather than having hiding his feelings all the way away from himself. And through Rufus, it kind of seems that Jusis was able to come forward and acknowledge, hey, and give class 7 a better look and in-depth view of himself, and that kind of makes Machias kind of loosen up on him. Machias and his relationship throughout the series, it's very strained, but it's not too serious. It doesn't ever get to the point where they're actually at each other's throats. Like, you would think throughout the game where Machias hates nobles and dislikes nobles because of the actions being understandable even. That's the thing I like about Machias' character. We'll get to him in his video, but you would think that with that he would at least be way more hateful. But he always if he was so hateful, he wouldn't even give Jusis a chance. He wouldn't even talk to Jusis. He wouldn't even interact with him. But we do see that he gives Jusis a chance, and Jusis gives him a chance in turn to kind of talk to each other. Now, they do tease each other, but at the end of the series, I would say they're pretty good friends. Almost just shooting the shit with each other, not really too much. They don't hate each other at all. I wanted to talk about nobles in the world overall as well. For most nobles, we see that it's very hard for them to see themselves below anybody else. And that was kind of the conflict within the first game to the second game, at least the way I viewed it, was they weren't put in the forefront of the empire anymore. It wasn't the noble faction was in the limelight, and kind of their ego. I would say it was definitely a case of ego that was affecting the nobles within the first game and throughout the second game. And Jusis sees this, and when we pick back Jusis up back in the second game, he is way more jaded, because after the attack on class 7 at the end of the first game, he has to go back home, and he even tells Reen, he says, you gotta fight me, you gotta be able to take me back, I can't just go back empty-handed, I can't just go back as if I gained nothing from this. So he fights Reen, and they run into Ouroboros, and that whole shebang. We see Jusis kind of almost grow throughout this, not even almost, we see him grow throughout the series, but we see him kind of go on this growth where it's not really other than of course the second class trip, we don't really see him like take leaps and bounds in growth, and I like that. We see him take his little baby steps, and it's admitted in Reverie, Rufus is kind of jealous of Jusis and his growth. Rufus admits that he never really had the chance, not the chance, but he never really gave himself the opportunity to grow like Jusis did. He never gave himself the opportunity to make friends like Jusis did, to really push himself forward, and Jusis made those chances and took those steps, and it made him an actively better person, and that affects Rufus. We see Jusis is almost him influencing the outside world way more than the outside world influences him. And what I mean is, Jusis as a character he's not too outward. He's not very like I said, emotional. But we see him affect Machias's character, making Machias almost rethink that, all nobles aren't that bad. We see him support and act as a pillar for Millium. We'll get to Millium in a little bit, but we'll see him act as a support and pillar for Millium, also helping out Millium's character and Rufus's character as well. We see him also, he's of course, everybody in Class 7 acts as support for Reen, but he also supports Reen as well, and he kind of takes over for the Albarea household, and we see him influence his world so much. He's definitely a catalyst character. There's characters in Trials which of course influence the world, and there's characters that let the world influence them in Trials. And I'll give you an example in my personal opinion. Of course, Jusis is a catalyst character. Fee, on the meanwhile, she lets the world kind of influence her. She takes steps to kind of understand and try to get what this world really means, not necessarily from a Jaeger's eyes, but from the perspective of a normal person's eyes, and what she tries to make sense of everything. I was gonna get into Millium and Jusis, so I guess it's now that time. We see throughout the first game, really, I'm watching a friend play through the first game right now, and it's kind of weird seeing Millium and Jusis and this friendship develop, because in the first game you don't really see them hang out, at least one-on-one specifically or anything, but you do see Jusis kind of take more towards a older brother role, which is weird. He doesn't have a younger sister. You would think that would be Reen taking that step or anything, because he already has a younger sister. Or does really anybody else have any younger siblings? I think that's just Reen. Yeah. Huh. Wow, that's only Reen, I think. So we see Jusis kind of take this kind of olderly brotherly role for Millium throughout the later games, especially 3, when we when we get back to seeing everybody. He's kind of there for Millium. He's there just to support her, telling her not necessarily what to do, but Millium kind of goes there to just chill out with Jusis as well. So it's so nice to see that. At first, he was distrusting of her because, intelligence agent. But throughout the series, he kind of grows to trust. Not even kind of grows. That's probably one of his best friends. It probably goes Machias, and then Millium and Machias probably would be his top 2 friends, and then probably Reen, I guess, would probably be his series. Now, eventually, at the end of 3, we see that Millium passes away, or not necessarily passes away. She just gets out. She sacrifices herself. That's just outright. She sacrifices herself. The first person it cuts to, or not the first, but one of the first people it cuts to, if I'm not mistaken, is Jusis, and I love his reaction. That is probably the most emotion we see Jusis put into overall in the series, and it really hits. Reen love Reen, made a video on him, you should watch that. Reen kind of puts himself in this position where he does react emotionally to a lot of things, and people have to constantly tell him not to do that, as if, think of everybody else. Don't be the type of person to just jump into something and sacrifice yourself. Don't do that. But with Millium, Jusis finally reacts emotionally, finally We finally get that out of him, and I love that. Everybody else, we kind of see them think emotionally. Jusis is one of the few people that doesn't do that. Throughout the entirety of the series, he reacts calmly. He thinks tactfully. He doesn't there's no need. If there's anybody you kind of look forward to in a way of like thinking straight, it's Jusis. And we finally see that egg crack, and I think with his character, that was one of the greatest ways to handle his character. Eventually we have the ghost of Milliam and 4 come in and all that stuff, and I wouldn't say that's the most enjoyable thing for me, but we do get to see them at the theme park. They get to kind of chill out for a little bit, and we get to kind of pick their brains on Jusis kind of valuing friendship a little bit more, knowing that your friends could be gone at any time. They could leave, they could go, or they could pass away. You don't know, and you can see kind of that value that he has with his friends, and that is, I appreciate that. I love that storytelling. I love that writing that they show with him. He doesn't really care after a certain point that, yeah, she's an Iron Blood, so what? Like, that doesn't really matter to him. Especially when it's like he learns that Rufus is one too. It's like, okay, that doesn't, his own brother is one. Why can't like Milliam be his bestest of friend, right? Overall, I think it's I think Jusis has a great understanding of, or I guess no, he is kind of the catalyst for, not catalyst, that's the wrong word, but kind of the connection point for a lot of the things in the story. A lot of the things, or a lot of the themes of the story connect back, especially for Cold Steel, connect back to Nobility, and connect back to the difference between people, and him being, of course, one of the sons of the 4 houses, or 4 great houses, or whatever. Him showing that connection is great for the world overall. There's characters out there who Machias isn't really like, we're not getting that much connection out of Machias, really. We're really not. We're not getting that much connection out of Emma, and I love Emma, but we're not getting that much connection in terms of the world with Emma. Now, I guess the magical sense, yes, we are, but in the political sense, which the series is focused on the politics a lot, we're not getting that much out of those characters, and it's refreshing to see that Jusis is that character. If there was a political based game, right, Jusis would probably be the protag. Like in political, I mean, like if you needed to make like a run for office game or whatever, like Jusis would probably be number 1 on that list of protags. He is probably the most connected to that line, especially when we see the role of his story that he takes over later on. At the ripe age of 20, he is already not trying, but he's kind of already taking over for the household of Albarea. And I gotta say, all of the, I'm gonna say this, and slightly off on a little bit of a rant. All of the, at like 3, in 3, right? Like Ring's 20, and he's already a teacher, which is weird because Sarah's a teacher at like 26, 28, one of the two. I think it's 26, somewhere 26, 28, right? That makes sense. That's teacher age. She could probably, she has stuff to talk about, right? But as soon as Ring is finished with the Ashen Chevalier bit and Crossbell and all that stuff, and the war and all that stuff, he goes to be a teacher? Like, that's really surprising at the age of 20, and then you go and everybody's like, oh, hey, and granted, I get it. We saw them at Cold Steel 1, they were 17, right? So Cold Steel 1 and 2, they were like 17, so makes sense. But it's like 2 years later and they're already a teacher. Like, what did Green do? And how, please tell me how he can teach anybody. And maybe the anime will go into that. I still need to watch the anime, but like, I can't, how is he supposed to do that? I don't know. They kind of jumped the gun with that. I feel like we should have got a little bit more of Ring kind of doing his own little thing. I'm not saying be a bracer or anything, but he could have been a wanderer or something. Like, at the end of a Reverie, the trail series goes too fast in the first place. I love trails, don't get me wrong, but it goes really fast. In the sense that, like, he goes from being a novice, and he himself says he's a novice, right? He goes from being a novice and jumps right into being a divine blade, like instantly. I don't even know what other ranks there are. Is it like novice, intermediate, advanced, master? Like, is that what that is, or will he just go straight from being a novice into divine blade? We don't see him go around train. We don't see him try to get better or anything like that. We kind of see him gets a little bit more mastery over the ogre form or whatever, but we don't see him. That's what I mean. Like, we should. He goes to the war and everything, but maybe a little bit more of him like advancing through the world would be cool. We don't see that much of that. Jusis, when we see him next, he's the goddamn leader of Albarea, like, or not Albarea, of the household, like pseudo leader already. And it makes sense because his dad's crimes into, I get that, right? But it's still remarkable for every single one of them to be doing any of that. We see Fee become almost an A rank at 20. If she does, I think she already is at 21 or 20. She's, no, not even at 20. She's 2 years younger than Reen, so at 18. So at 18, she's already a racer, an A rank, or on her way to become an A rank. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. That is crazy. And then meanwhile, Machias is doing what? He's just, he's like doing the crossbow stuff. Like, most of the, there's growth there with the characters, and I get that it was separated 2014 to 2017, I think. 2017. So there's a 3-year time skip, honestly, truth be told, between the games. So it makes sense that we see them, age that much. I'm asking for too much. I understand that, to see them jump, because guaranteed the next time we see Reen, he's gonna be crazy strong. Next time we see Jusis, he's probably going to be the leader, not even the pseudo leader, but he's the de facto leader of Household Albarea. Next time we see those characters, that's what's probably gonna happen. And I don't dislike that. It makes sense, but geez, their character progression massively jumped up. I think Emma's the only character that I like that actually kind of showed off. But anyway, sorry, I'm ranting. The character progression, insane. But anyway, yeah, I guess overall, I just wanted to make a video today on Jusis, what it means to be a noble. His character overall is just a great character. I love his character. What it means for him to be a noble, honestly, he tries to live his life with pride in his family and trying to maintain that pride, and I think that's what that means. The maintaining of the pride is the hard part. You can't maintain anything without putting anything into it. I think he dislikes most of the nobles that he dislikes are the ones that claim they have pride, and the ones that claim, and they're really pretentious, but they're not doing anything to really boost their family, and they're not really doing anything to boost the people around them. To be a noble means to take care of the people around you. At least it seems like that's what the story is trying to portray. Jusis takes care of not only himself, but Milliam as well, and all of Class 7. He seems to be the one, not necessarily a glue in that sense, but one to, hey, I can help out here, I can help out here. No matter if you're a commoner or if you're a noble, he can help you out, and that's probably one of the most refreshing parts of his character. That's probably one of the parts that I like the most about his character, is the fact that he can help and he will help. He does. It seems like it doesn't even seem like he picks that up necessarily from Reen, but it seems like, or from any of Class 7, but it seems like they let that part of him out way more comparative to any of the other characters. Or I guess any of his other influences. So much so he makes Rufus jealous, and probably Rufus is probably one of the most, I'd say, characters that seek the least amount from anybody else. I guess he seeks validation from the Chancellor, but other than that, he doesn't seek anything from anybody. That's probably one of his only problems, like, for himself. He just seeked that validation. He viewed the Chancellor as his father more so than his own father. And of course, we have all the other stuff that happened with Rufus and the other games, and we'll get to that. I'll give Rufus his own video, probably an hour long or something crazy stupid. Reverie really helped his character. Reverie helped out his character a lot. But yeah, it's with Rufus, with Jusis, and their connection overall, being able to make him jealous, being able to make him rethink a lot of his life, I guess, as in, what should I have done? Dude, that's I'm just saying, that's an insane feat to make Rufus think like that. That is an insane feat in and of itself, and I give props to Jusis for that. He gets his own little video on what it means to be a noble, because if it's anybody that deserves that video, Laura, she's great and she's a noble, but I count her more as a swordsman than a noble. She tries damn near day and night, and same thing with her dad, Victor Arcade. I count them more as swords. Like, yeah, they are nobles, but they don't care about what it means to be a noble or what it not means to be a noble. They more so care about being a swordsman and trying to perfect their craft. And that will be a video for Laura in its own right. But with Jusis, he does care about being a noble. He does care about that in general side of the world. And seeing that through him, it's unbeatable. I don't think there's probably another noble character done nearly as well while keeping him, I'd say, neutral. Good to neutral as far as like alignment. He's not evil. We don't see Jusis think evilly. We don't see him try to manifest or like try to like hold this weird like, oh, I have a mistress, or we don't see him hold or go against anything inside himself other than the internal conflict of how can he separate himself almost from the mistakes of his family, and how can he hold his own right in this world. That's the internal conflict we see within himself. He's not battling necessarily any demons, and that's a good thing for me. That's a good thing for his character. Not necessarily every character needs to battle some type of inner demon or some type of huge character flaw within themselves that they see within themselves. There is no flaw for Jusis. He doesn't really have any. I guess he's too calm sometimes, and others might view that as a bad thing, but he doesn't really have any bad, terrible things, and I like that with his character. Anyway, I restate points 30 million times. That's what this channel's for. I guess it's for me to rant and rave. Overall though, yeah. I'm gonna end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just me talking for goddamn 27 minutes on end. In my dirty ass room. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll hopefully be able to get out another one. I'm gonna start making videos pretty soon again. Just had to do some stuff. You guys know, life. I think Emma might be the next one. Really like Emma's character. She's probably my favorite girl out of all the out of all of Cold Steel. So I'm looking forward to that video, and I hope you guys are too. You guys be sure to keep doing what you're doing if it's good, you know, and yeah, just be sure to keep living, and I'll probably have another video out pretty soon. But yeah, see you guys.